Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I have a yoga mat, but if you don't have one, find an area in your house that's carpeted or like I have here, maybe there's a rug in your living room or in some room that isn't slippery, and we'll give you a little bit of padding. I've got 2 yoga blocks. A really great substitute is 2 thick books. And a folded blanket, which could be as simple as the throw blanket from your couch, or a beach towel, a thick bath towel. I have a sleeping, adorable dog. I highly recommend one if you can find one. Let's start standing in our foundational pose, our mountain pose. So feet are hip distance and parallel. There's a little bit of bend in our knees, so we're not ever locked out. We'll think of this as being soft, a soft landing. Turn your palms away from each other. Feel that that originates at your shoulder joint. So it's not just our wrists turning out. It's the whole arm. And as we do that, there's an organic uplift to our heart, which is a pretty nice place to start. In fact, we stop here so that we can start. What we try to stop is quite so many distractions. We think about turning the arrows of attention inward. Our breath is an amazing tool for that. Our breath goes 2 different directions. If we allow it, our mind is capable of going about 1 million different directions. Every inhale, inhale fully. Maybe even pause at the top, and then do the same with your exhale. Exhale fully. Maybe a little brief pause at the bottom. So no rush. Fully present. We add a little bit of movement to our breath. It's simple. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. And then exhale, float your arms along your sides, palms turn out from our shoulder joint. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, float your arms along your sides, palms face out. Inhale, V shape. This time exhale, hinge at your hips. I'll turn sideways so you can see. A hinge at my hips is not a fold that's rounded. So I hinge, my hips go back, and I'm taking my hands to my thighs. I advise that you do the same, at least for this first one. Press into your hands and lift your heart. That traction makes it a little bit more clear, right? It helps with what's called proprioception, figuring out where we are in space. Now let's fold in a little bit deeper, but try to keep that same length in our spine. And some of you might slide your hands to your shins here. Stop when you feel that it's collapsing into rounding. Some of you might get your hands lower, but it's not a goal to get your hands lower. The goal is to create some space. We'll inhale, glide our hands up. I like to take them back to my thighs to uplift my heart more. And then we'll just simply stand, V-shape our arms overhead, and pause and stand in our mountain pose. Inhale, V-shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles, but we're long in our spine. Slide your hands up, inhale, lift your heart. We'll fold it back in and try to stay long as we hinge. Then rise, reach, inhale, arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky, and we stand into our mountain. Let's face the short edge of our mat with our hip distance parallel stance. Turn our palms away from each other from our shoulder joint. And then inhale, V-shape, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Slide your hands up and inhale, then bend your knees as deeply as you need to get your hands solidly on the ground. Walk back with your hands on the ground, pushing the ground away into down dog. Some essential things here. We're not crumbled. We don't have our elbows bent out to the side. It's not shoulders and ears. Actively push the ground away. Feel that there's a hook in your tailbone, lifting your hips up and back. I have got my feet as wide as my mat. I'm on the balls of my feet and my knees are bent. You might choose to fashion yours the way I'm doing mine. And then we'll walk forward, feet to our hands. Lift your heart, inhale, slide your hands up. Exhale, hinge at your hips, keep the length. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, and then we stand in our mountain with our palms facing out. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge, hands to thighs, shins or ankles. Slide your hands up, inhale, bend your knees, palms go flat, push the ground away right away. Hook in our tailbone, down dog. Let's shift so that our shoulders aim right over our wrists. We're still pushing the ground away, and then the hook in our tailbone takes us back to down dog. We'll do that 2 more times. So shift, shoulders over wrists, push the ground away actively. Our hips take us up and back into down dog. Once more with a little feeling, as they say, shoulders over wrists, plank pose, and then our hips lift us up and back for down dog. We'll walk forward, feet to our hands, our hip distance stance once again. Lift your heart, inhale, slide your hands up. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand with our palms facing out. Let's keep adding to our sun salutation. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge, hands to thighs, shins or ankles. Slide your hands up and inhale, bend your knees deeply, situate your hands flat, push the ground away as we step to down dog. Shift, shoulders over wrists, and this time knees down. Our knees are further back in space than if we were on hands and knees. So think 5 inches back, but shoulders over wrists, and you'll have to use your core strength to keep you from collapsing. We don't want collapse, we're pushing the ground away. Keep pushing the ground away as you bend your elbows, and your elbows brush against your ribs, and then we find ourselves flat on our bellies. Uncurl your toes. Forearms down on the ground and parallel to those 2 long edges of your mat. Press into the tops of your feet until your kneecaps lift. Traction your elbows towards you so that your heart moves to the gateway of your arms. Lower down. Remember that feeling as we now place our hands next to our ribs and see if we can do the same action as Sphinx. If it turns into a struggle, just stay with Sphinx instead. We'll lower down, and whether it was Cobra or Sphinx, place our hands next to our ribs, curl our toes under. We're coming to all 4s in one chunk. So use your core to come to all 4s, and then lift your hips like the hook in our tailbone just found us, and voila, down dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands. Slide your hands up. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, and then we stand in our mountain with our palms facing out. Let's flow. Inhale, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Slide your hands up and inhale. Bend your knees deeply, palms flat, push the ground away as we walk back, finding the hook in our tailbone for down dog. We shift shoulders over wrists for our plank, and then we bring our knees down, modified plank, still push the ground away. Bend your elbows, they brush against your ribs, and all the way to our bellies for a Cobra or Sphinx. We uncurl our toes, and then we lower down, curl our toes back under, come through all 4s. Let the hook in your tailbone bring you into down dog. And then from down dog, walk forward, feet to hands. Glide your hands up, inhale, lift your heart. Slide your hands down, hinge at your hips, we fold. Rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, inhaling a V, and then we stand with our palms facing out. We will find some props to help us along. 2 blocks tall, just off the front edge of your mat. And then once again, we will situate ourselves so that we are right here at the front edge of our mat. I'm going to actually bring mine onto my mat. Now, first let's investigate a chair pose. So we want to make sure that we're not doing a chair pose where we load our knees. We want to think shifting back and down. It looks a little bit like when we did our hip hinge. And we are reaching our arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky. So that's our chair, shifting back and down. And then we will stand and float our arms along our sides. 2 more times like that. Chair, sit back and down. Think chair that isn't there. And then we stand up and float our arms along our sides. Once more, chair pose. And then we stand up and our palms face out. Let's add to that chair pose. Chair pose. Stand on your right leg, bring your left knee into your chest as you lower your arms, and then we will head back into our chair pose, V shape. Remember, hips back and down. Stand on your left leg and bring your right knee into your chest. Haha, chair. Stand on your right leg, left knee into your chest. Our arms are along our sides, and then we come to chair pose. And we stand on our left leg with our right knee into our chest. Chair pose. Stand it up and pause for a moment here in our mountain pose. A little bit of a different vibe for a moment. Inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, shins or ankles. We'll uplift our heart. And now use these two blocks that we've situated. Stand on your right leg, extend your left leg off the ground back behind you. It's a letter T. Once we're in our letter T, I find it to be helpful to bend my right knee so I really know my muscles are involved. And then we're using our core strength here too, and you can keep your hands on your blocks the entire time, or decide to take a little prayer underneath your heart and find balance. Like everything else we've done, we don't want this to become a crumble, so it might actually be better to just keep our hands on our blocks to avoid that. Now remember our friend chair pose. Step your left foot hip distance from your right and into chair pose. Then exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins or ankles. Slide your hands up, find your blocks and that length in your spine. Stand on your left leg, right leg now floats in that letter T back behind us. You can bend your left knee as little or as much as you would like. And maybe it's interesting to try to find a little prayer underneath your heart and find balance. But remember, we're prioritizing not rounding our spine as we do that. 3 moments here. We'll step down, right foot hip distance from left into chair, and then we stand it up and pause with our palms facing out. All right, ready? Chair pose. We'll stand with our left knee into our chest, and then we seesaw our hands to our blocks in our letter T, and we come back up, left knee into our chest. There's a little balance there, isn't there? And we step down into chair pose and over to our left leg with our right knee into our chest. We seesaw our hands onto our blocks with our right leg back behind us. Long spine still, please. And then left knee bends and right knee bends into our chest as we come up. Good Lord. And then a chair pose. Let's do it again. Onto our right leg, left knee into our chest. Lower your arms. We seesaw into a letter T, otherwise known as Warrior 3. We'll come back up, left knee into our chest, a little balancing challenge, and step into a chair pose. Onto your left leg, right knee into your chest, arms lower. We seesaw into that letter T carefully. Blocks are very helpful. And then right knee into our chest as we come upright. You'll do better than I am. Chair pose. We're going to do it one more time. On our right leg, left knee into our chest. A seesaw into our letter T, Warrior 3. And then we come upright with our left knee into our chest, and we step into our chair pose. Over to our left leg, right knee into our chest. A seesaw of a letter T with our hands on our props. And then we come upright with our right knee into our chest, and we step into chair pose. And then arms along our sides, palms face out. Let's relocate our blocks for now. Take them off the 2 sides of your mat so they're not underfoot, they're not anything that's going to trip us. Chair pose is our inhale. Hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins or ankles. Glide your hands up and inhale. Bend your knees, palms go flat. We step it to down dog. Once you're in down dog, lift your right leg back behind you, step it forward. Most of us are going to need to help that along. Trot your 2 blocks into the mix. It's nice to use these for some alignment points. Instead of swinging our right hip out to the right, let's hug that right hip towards the left a little bit. Add a bit of bend to your back knee. And once you add that bend to your back knee, come up into crescent pose, which is a V shape, arms overhead. You could think of trying to do our mountain pose from the waist up, and then hands to your blocks. Move your blocks out of the way, palms flat, down dog. From down dog, lift your left leg back behind you. Step that left foot forward, help it along. Blocks assembled on either side of our left foot. Swing your left hip back and right hip forward. Find a long spine even here. Bend your back knee a bit to help facilitate upright V shape, thumbs to the sky in our crescent lunge for a moment. Here as well, from the waist up, it feels like we are inspiring our mountain pose. Then hands to your blocks. Move your blocks off to the side, step it to down dog. From down dog, you can take a child's pose, take a little respite, or take a little sun salutation with me, shoulders over wrists in our plank, knees down, keep pushing the ground away. We come to our bellies. From our bellies into either cobra or into sphinx pose. Then lower down, curl your toes back under, come in one piece to all fours, and then our hips lift us up and back into downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands, feet are hip distance. Slide your hands up, inhale, lift your heart. Slide your hands down as we exhale and fold. We'll take a chair pose here. Sit back and down, remember, not forward into our knees, and then we stand up, float our arms along our sides, and pause. All right, ready? Chair pose. Exhale, fold, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Glide your hands up, inhale. Bend your knees, palms flat, step it into downward facing dog. In down dog, lift your right leg back behind you, step it forward. You might have to help it along. Find your blocks underneath your hands. Move your blocks forward and make it a letter T. Now we're in our warrior 3. We will stand on this right leg and bring our left knee into our chest for that little balancing game, and then we step it down into our chair pose. Exhale, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Move your blocks to either side of you, then place your palms flat on the ground. Step back, push the ground away, down dog. Left leg lifts behind us. We step it forward and maybe help it along. We'll trot our blocks into the mix right away here. This is a launch for our letter T. Move your blocks forward, lift that right leg. A moment here until we use our core strength and our balancing skills. Upright with our right knee into our chest, and then we step it into chair pose, and we'll stand and float our arms along our sides. One more time through that. Relocate your blocks to either side of your mat. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Slide your hands up, inhale, bend your knees, palms flat, step to down dog. Once in down dog, lift your right leg, step that right foot forward, help it along. Take your 2 blocks, frame that right foot. This is our launch for letter T. Blocks go forward, left leg lifts behind us. We do the best we can and have a sense of humor as we try to balance, coming upright. Left knee into our chest. We'll step down into chair. Exhale, fold, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Lift your heart, move your blocks off to the side, then bend your knees, palms flat, down dog. In down dog, left leg lifts. We step it forward and help it along. Blocks frame our left foot. We find our launch. We move our blocks a foot in front of us. Our right leg lifts in a letter T position back behind us. We find our sense of humor and maybe some balance as we bring our right knee into our chest and stand upright, and then it's chair pose. Exhale, fold, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Slide your hands up, move your blocks off the side of your mat. Palms go flat, we step to down dog. One last little shenanigan, we come into plank, push the ground away, knees down, keep pushing the ground away, slowly onto our bellies. We'll uncurl our toes for either cobra or sphinx pose. We'll lower down, curl our toes under, come to all fours. From all fours, take your right arm up to the sky. I'm going to turn a little bit sideways so that you can see me. So right arm up to the sky. If you'd like padding, use your folded blanket. Swoop that right arm underneath. Some people take one of their blocks and put their head on one of the blocks here, but we'll take a little swoop and a little twist and pause a moment or two here. You might say that this particular practice is one of balance and bliss. So we've done our balance, and now we're going to our bliss. We come up onto all fours, and now it's our left arm that swoops up and then underneath us, and we come to the outside of our left shoulder, the left side of our head. We can have a block there, a folded blanket there, whatever works. Unravel yourself from here. Take a wide-legged seat. So this is a great place to sit on your folded blanket. If when you extend your legs out to the side, it's becoming that rounded spine, my friend calls it Dracula spine, let's not do that. Let's shift so that we can have a nice long spine. So sitting up on something can help, and so can keeping a bend in your knees. And then in our seated, wide-legged situation, we'll pause a moment and feel the feels. Now, some people might wander forward a little bit. If you're already feeling all the feels, you don't have to go anywhere. And wandering forward can sometimes be tempting to take that Dracula stance. So remember, you can keep a bend in your knees, you can be seated on your blanket, but what I really want is for us to find a place with just enough sensation that it's interesting and holds our attention, but not so much that we feel like we need to flee. And we're going to do that for a full, silent minute of meditation. That full minute starts right now. Bring ourselves up and take our right hand inside of our right foot. Try to convince that left hip to drop down, and then take your left hand behind your head and lean your head into your hand. We're not trying to get close to our right leg. I think you'll feel what I'm talking about in terms of a stretch on the left side of your body right now. There are some people who come to their forearm, but I wouldn't force that. And let's get a little bit of stretch time, silent stretch time in here. And then we bring ourselves upright. Left hand inside of left thigh. Maybe it's the forearm, but we'll take our hand behind our head because it just gives us something to aim for as we lean into it, and maybe left forearm down or wherever you feel the feels. Remember, right sit bone is going to try to lift. Let's anchor that down and pause. Bring yourself upright. Help it along. So hold the outsides of your thighs and draw your legs so that they're hip distance. Let's lie down on our backs. Once we're lying on our backs, palms flat, one time, shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you, very gently with your feet parallel. Lift your hips up into a bridge. That doesn't have to be a very big bridge, just an easy bridge. And we'll lower our hips down and take a spinal twist. Hips right, knees left. Maybe you cross your right knee over your left knee and we pause. We come through center with our feet hip distance and then scoot our hips left. Let our knees drop over to the right, and you could cross your left knee over your right here. And then we'll come down the middle. Shimmy your shoulder blades underneath us. You can do this with your knees bent or your legs straight, but it is our Shavasana final meditation, our rest and digest. Stay here in your final Shavasana meditation as long as you would like. If you're ready, give yourself a stretch, arms and legs away from each other, and then gently collect your knees into your chest. Roll to either side and use your arms so that your head can be the last thing to come up. Find any sort of comfortable way to sit. Palms can go up or down, hands could come to your heart. Maybe you like a prayer in front of your heart, but we pause in gratitude. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing this together again soon.